just me?
No.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to this Sunday morning service here at Salt and Light Christian Church. The story that I will be telling you all this morning is about the missionary Mary Slessor. Mary was born in 1848 in Scotland to a Presbyterian Christian family, and she was raised to have a heart for the Lord and to be a Christian. And as a young woman, she felt the calling to be a missionary to Africa, as many people in her generation from that area did. This was during the time of colonization of Africa, and so many European missionaries were going to Africa to spread the good news of the gospel. And she was one of them. And so she was sent to Nigeria when she was only 27 years old, and she spent her first 3 years as a missionary near the coast doing various work for the organization that sent her and beginning her mission trip. And unfortunately, only 3 years into her missionary work, she fell ill with malaria. And she had to go back to Scotland for treatment. And this disease would afflict her the rest of her life. However, she didn't let that stop her in her work. After receiving treatment in Scotland, she went back to Nigeria, this time going further inland into the country to preach the gospel to the natives that lived there. It was on her second journey that she really began to grasp the language and overcome the language barrier to communicate to these people. And in doing so, she immersed herself in their culture. She lived in a small mud hut with no modern amenities, and she ate the same food as the people around her and dressed the same. And she completely immersed herself into their culture as a way to relate to them and to get to know them. And as she did this, she came across several cultural practices that were quite abhorrent to her. One such practice, the most egregious, was a belief that these peoples had. Whenever a woman gave birth to twins, they believed that it was a curse from the devil, and that these twins would bring evil spirits to the family that they were born to. And so it was their common practice to abandon these twins in the wilderness, these infants, and they would leave them to be devoured by the wildlife. And often they would kill the mother as well. And so Mary, as you can imagine, saw this as quite barbaric and evil. And she began doing everything she could to extinguish this practice. She began by adopting the abandoned infants. She would go searching for them whenever she heard of twins being born. One such occasion, she rescued a pair of twins, a little boy and a little girl. Unfortunately, the boy died in infancy after she rescued him. But the little girl she adopted as her own daughter and raised her and brought her back to Scotland on many occasions, whether it was for her to get treatment because of her malaria or to visit family during holidays. And this is just one such example. Mary founded an orphanage in the local village where she rescued dozens of baby infants, most of which were twins. And through the years of communicating to the people and them seeing what she did, the people thought that this would destroy her, that these evil spirits, that this curse would come back on her. However, God blessed her. She recognized the image of God in all of us as humans, and she cherished the gift of life. And so she founded this orphanage, and God blessed her. Many of these children grew up to live healthy and successful lives in their community. And as she continued to preach the gospel, she also encouraged the people to establish their own hospitals and churches. She lived well into her 60s, despite her affliction with malaria. And the last about 20 years of her life were extremely difficult. She fell ill with fever over and over again. And in her old age, got to the point where she could hardly walk. And the young men or women of the village would wheel her around in a barrel or in a cart from village to village to preach the gospel and to encourage the peoples of Nigeria. To this day, there are many buildings dedicated to her and named after her in her memory. She has a hospital named after her, as well as a school and a church. And right out front of the University of Nigeria, the biggest college that they have, is a statue of her in the middle of a roundabout. And the statue portrays her carrying two babies, a pair of twins. We can see from Mary's life and her efforts that not only did she have a heart for God and to spread the gospel and see people saved, but she had a heart for life, for people. And she made that abundantly clear. And she changed the culture in Nigeria for the better and saved dozens, if not hundreds of lives in the process. So thank you. Let's bring you.